Good day and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be going over a progression video again. So this time it's the progression to Battle Cruisers. Now as you progress in the game, now that we're reaching the end of T6, that's for the majority of players who have high skills, now is the time for you to buy high class Battle Cruisers. Not Battle Cruisers, for you to buy high class cruisers, and then the next stage is for you to buy a Battle Cruiser. Now, we aren't going to be buying high class battle cruisers, we're going to be buying entry level battle cruisers, which means we're not getting that A class of power, and we're not going to be progressing in damage and speed and utility of these ships very quickly. Okay, so the first thing to think about before you get into this whole section of uh, buying a battle cruiser is where did you go with your cruiser? If you had a missile based cruiser and all your research is in missiles, you're going to go for a missile based battle cruiser. Same applies if you're a drone based, you're going to come to the drone base on the next level of ship. If you are laser or cannon based, you're going to do the exact same thing. If you did decomposers, the only ship you have right now is the Kenyu. Kenya, whatever it is. I don't know how to pronounce it properly, so I'm just going to stop myself. Okay, so now looking at your basic level battle cruisers, your combat, you'll find that in this list there are two levels, the T7 and the T8 vessels. Obviously, we can't think about T8. T8 is exactly double the time of T7. So if it took you 1.5 months to reach T7, it's going to take you 3 months to reach T8 since the start of the game. If you were progressing without any of those boosts on our SP, if because I did make a mistake yesterday when I said 3 weeks, that was actually the time left right now for people like me. Not 3 weeks, 2 weeks for people like me. The actual time that it would have taken us is somewhere near 2.5 months just to reach the end of T6 to enter T7. And that tells you just how much faster we are progressing at the moment. And you may not think that it is that fast, but with the amount of SP gain that we have half gain a day compared to the regular. At 30 a day, 30,000 into 10 million, you can just do it to get your seconds. So 10 million divided by 30 will give you a million divided by 3, and then you have to go in with the 3,33333 recurring. Then you divide that by 6, and it just keeps going on. Let me just use a calculator quickly. I'll give you the figure instead of going at it with a blab. I don't normally use a calculator for my maths. It's just that this figure is a bit huge. Okay, so as I said, we're gonna divide it by 30 a day. That gives us 333,000 recurring. Divide that by 60, that gives us the minutes. Then divide that again by 60, it gives us the hours. No, I'm going off somewhere. Sorry about that. I'm just seeing where I'm off. I know I'm off somewhere on this whole calculation. It's per minute. Okay, right. So if it's per minute, then everything I received was in minutes. And then you divide that by 60, that gives you the hours. Divide that total by 24, that gives you the number of days. And that would have taken us 231 days. Divide that by 30. I'm averaging it at 30, even though the months don't actually average out to 30. It's about 7 to 7.5 months. So that's how long it would have taken us to reach this levels of tech. That's how long it's going to take us to reach level 8. 7.5 months if you weren't running this particular setup. But the moment we go with something like the full impact, I'm not at full impact of SP gain. I'm 5 off. So let's say what it would have been. It's going to take everybody who's doing maximum SP 3 months to get to T8, while it's going to take everybody else who didn't do any type of SP excess gain 7 months to gain T8. And that just tells you the difference in how you play the game. And none of this is kept out with a pay to win strategy only. Free to plays use this because pay to wins have to use those materials and those items to get the free to plays to purchase from them so they can make ISK. Sorry. Okay, now moving forward. The next thing we have to think about in this whole situation is, where do we go when it comes time to purchasing our next ship? What do we need to save up on? What do we need to gather? Whether we should stay simple, whether we should stay advanced, everything like that there in what we need to think about for our next stage. I'm even going to give an estimate on how much of ISK we have to make a week as we progress now between T6 and T7, and when we in T7, how much we need to make a week and how much it needs to look like by the end. Sorry. Okay, so before we go into the ships directly, let me just leave this here at this point in the video. Please leave a like or comment on my videos. Consider subscribing to my channel. And if you don't like the video, leave a dislike and a comment. I have seen that there are dislikes on other videos of mine, but without the comment telling me where I've gone wrong, I don't know what type of mistake I made. So please leave a dislike and a comment if you don't like the video. Okay, so going into it, let's start off with what you need to think about if you were going for the Ferox. Now, the Ferox is the first of the ships here, and it is a railgun vessel. Now, let's look at it carefully. The railguns on these ships have two bonuses added immediately and one command burst module slot. It has 6 weapon slots, 3 mid, 5 low, and 3x3 on the rigs, which makes a total of 6 rigs on the ship. Then, for every advanced level that you upgrade, it gains range on its... No, it gains damage, and it gains 5% range. 8% damage and 5% range for each level that you pump into your medium railgun upgrades. So that's where it's going to gain its bonus. And then your battle cruiser command gives it more scan resolution. So the more command you have in battle cruiser, the bigger that distance is going to be. Now, this is just a little tip. For most of you, changing between the battle cruiser and cruiser isn't really that necessary. So I'm putting it out right now before we go any further. When you're thinking about what ship you are using, remember, if you are going to go around with a battle cruiser, you are slower, you're going to take more damage. It's more of a risk for PvP because they're more expensive, and you're better off with the Navy class issue vessel. And you can still make the same ISK as you can with this vessel. Remember, you have 1 more weapon slot on this. I ran around in the trainer all the way up till this week because I wanted to get good with the ship before I upgraded myself. So similarly, I'm going to buy one of these cheap battle cruisers, and I'm going to run around with it and I'm going to get good. But obviously, if I'm going to use it as a training vessel, I'm going to be putting in a lot less value into each slot. Okay, now let's go into the basic info of the ship and let's look at what we're getting for this vessel. So, first thing to note is this is a shield tanking vessel. So if you're going to run tank, you're going to run it on the shield. But when it comes to these vessels, especially the battle cruisers, don't ever run an armor tank. Now, the reason for it is I have seen people playing with battle cruisers so far, and I've even played with the Kenyu a little bit. The turning time and the moving of that vessel is extremely slow. If you're going to armor tank and your armor falls low, you're going to take damage into your hull. And how much of time does it take for it to turn? It's a ridiculous amount of time. It's almost double what it takes your battle cruiser to align. and then it still takes time to charge up before it jumps into warp. So if you're running this battle cruiser into a battle um, with enemies who are on you and hitting you, and they take out your shield and they're now eating through your armor, and you are armor tank, and you decide you're going to keep tanking it because you're going to let it sink a little bit more. The moment you drop to that less than 25%, remember your armor is weaker at that bottom section because they're working off a principle of taking extra damage at the lower percentage, and it's just going to fly for you. You're going to see your armor is going to crumble almost instantly, and then it's going to go straight into your structure. Provided the enemies aren't using explosive weapons only, um, the damage to your structure will be just a little slower than your armor, but it's still going to eat fast. And as you're going through it, while you're still making that turn, you must probably already lost half your structure. That's when your turn is complete. By the time you're ready to jump, you're risking your last 5% of your structural integrity to get yourself out of the fight. And that's why you don't want to run an armor based tank with these vessels. So this isn't actually going to be a what you need to do 100%. This is just a little discussion on how to progress. Now, thinking about it carefully, you need to think about what you're going to be putting on these vessels. Now, straight off the bat, you don't have all of your upgrades for command and defense of your battle cruisers. So I would suggest not jumping into your battle cruiser and running it around for your story missions and major combat until you've at least mastered the basic command. So let me just get out of this and let me just open this menu again. So when it comes to the ship, what you are going to want to do is complete this basic command, battle cruiser command, complete basic defense, and basic engineering. Now, with those three inputted into your vessel, the way it's going to benefit you is you are going to be able to use a battle cruiser. Now, I am going to do a special video on each battle cruiser, how to fit them, what to fit them with, because each battle cruiser is slightly different, and working it in the right way means you have to understand where to go, what to do, and which format of play is best for that ship. Running afterburners on these ships are not ideal because battle cruisers aren't going to evade cruisers, they aren't going to evade destroyers. And running a fast battle cruiser means you can match up and take damage from a from a destroyer, and that's how it works. But with your battle cruiser, you can't match the destroyer. The destroyer is going to fly circles around you. It's going to damage your shield quickly. It's going to eat through your armor. It's going to have the advantage in that fight from the start to the end. The only thing you can do is use a triple web of fire on your vessel to stop it so you can hit it. And when you're doing that, you're basically losing all advantages of your mid slot. You've just dedicated your mid slot to stopping slower vessels, and your lower 5 slots are going to be at the detriment of capacitor. Okay, so these are the skills that you need to learn when it comes to it. And the first thing you need to do is count how many there are and work out how much of time it's going to take you. So there are 9 new skills. 9 new skills times 250 hours a piece. That's going to tell you exactly how long it's going to take. That's just over 2,250 hours worth of learning of the skills. Now, I said 250 hours. As I said, I don't know what's the time in expert. I haven't opened any expert level mastery as yet, because expert level isn't of any use to me. I haven't yet completed my advanced on any item as yet. So looking at the vessels, they have a large range of low slot, they have a large range of rigs. Because they have more rigs, your rigs are going to afford you more of a benefit on your ship. You can increase capacitor for your lower section. You can throw in a warp, increase a hyperspace rig so that you can move faster through the map. Remember, these vessels are slower in warp. I'll show you the warp speed here, 2.7. So by adding one of those hyperspace additions at the point 3, you can match your battle cruiser's warp speed across the map. Okay, so moving on to the next part of this whole discussion with the ship, what should you run in your fittings? Now, when you are running your fittings originally, you're going to run whatever the ship is best with, because other than that, there is no usage on these vessels. So, running 6 weapon slots, what are you going to run in it for this railgun vessel? As I said, this vessel is much tankier than your battle cruisers. It doesn't have the ability to run away, and it definitely won't have the ability to higher orbit all the time. Even if you equip it with the afterburner, let me just see what's the speed on this. Flight velocity 177, increase it by 130%, 135%, 150%. You double it, that's going to give you 350. You should be reaching somewhere near 500 meters per second when flying with this vessel. That's provided I'm not adding in the other bonuses from your research on your afterburner. If you have your full research on your afterburner, that's going to give you another 50-60% on your standard velocity. If you're using velocity, maybe you can make this vessel reach something like 800 meters per second with everything maxed into the section just for speed. That means your afterburner is going to be running at its best on this vessel. You might even try something crazy like an afterburner and a warp drive on the vessel to get it to those speeds. Not really worth it. The warp drive eats capacitor like crazy. The afterburner eats a lot of capacitor, and you're going to need a lot of recharge. Without your rigs on your power management, you're not going to gain that advantage with this vessel. Okay, in terms of rigs, depending on whether you're fighting as a tank or as a heavy damage dealer. If you're going for a damage dealer, remember you're going in fleet controls. You're going to go for a standard attack vessel with this stuff in the start. You're not going to go glass cannon. The reason why you're not going to go glass cannon with this is it has a massive amount of defense to start off with, and going glass cannon with this particular vessel isn't going to get you that much extra damage until later on in the season. Like when I put out my video on the glass cannon build, was most probably about the time when people could use glass cannons on a battle cruiser, not a battle cruiser, on a cruiser. So that's when I released that video. So if you're following my videos and wondering why I'm so far behind on content, that's because I'm only releasing content when it's relevant to your benefits. Now, as I'm saying, even if you're purchasing these ships, you're not going to use them at 100% efficiency. So let's continue on looking at the various differences. So the first one you got was a railgun vessel. The next one I'm going to look at is the Cyclone. This vessel is your missile vessel, and as you can see, similar setup, additional bonuses from Battlecruiser command. I was trying to say this. Another shield tank, and I have noticed the pattern with each territory. What you should be focusing in terms of damage if you're going to run a drone ship is basically, if you're going against Kaldari, they have a heavy amount of shields. If you're going against Minmatar, they also run a heavy amount of shields. If you're going up against Amar or Gallant, they have a heavy amount of armor and hull. So the way to beat them is actually to run a lower damage weapon against if you're running with drones, to run a lower amount of EM drones against Gallant and Amar, and a higher amount of explosive damage weapons. If you're just going to go for the medium build, you're going to use something like a Vesper, and you're going to smash through the shield and the armor at constant rate and go through the hull at the same rate. But if you want to be a little bit faster and a little bit more powerful, you're going to run EM drones, and you're going to run explosive drones, and you're going to use them against the hull in the end. And for a good formation for those is 2 EM drones, 3 explosive drones against Amar and Gallant. Against Kaldari, 3 EM drones, 2 explosive drones, and that's a good formation against Kildare, and Minmatar. And that's how you're going to get through those ships if you're running the drone builds. Now, let me go to the Hurricane. The Hurricane, if I'm correct, is a laser vessel, a cannon vessel, sorry. So here comes the cannon vessel. The cannon vessel is obviously going to have a similar setup. It's weaker in terms of overall defense. It's also shield centric, but it's very low in terms of defense. Its defenses are almost on par with some of the cruisers, and if I'm correct, it's a little bit faster than most of the other battle cruisers. So that's where it is. Now, the Prophecy, if I'm correct, is a drone ship. Yep, there's it. It's a drone ship. As you can see, 5 drones, 3 weapon slots, 3 mid, 5 low, 6 on the bottom. So let's look at it overall. Heavy defense. And if I'm correct, most of it's going to be armor. As you can see, most of it is in armor. As I said, this is an Amar ship or galleon ship, the heavier armor vessels. So let's look at the next one, the Harbinger prototype. And here we go, laser vessel. Standard format. Let's see, where's the armor on this? It's going to be a faster vessel. Very fast recharge time. More armor. This is Amar or Gallant. And Myrmidon. It's a drone vessel as well. Okay. And if I'm correct, this is going to be armor type again. This is a galleon ship. I know it because I've been fighting galleon for days, and I've been draining these vessels for capacity the most. So that is a breakdown on these vessels. And as you can see, those are the vessels you are going to get when you enter in. And as you progress, you're going to get bigger and stronger vessels. And I'm just going to say this here for a gender perspective on this whole progression. When you are purchasing ships and you are thinking of advancing and getting stronger, don't think that because the ship is a higher level vessel, it's that much better. It comes with a higher level base stats, but it isn't benefiting from all the research you've done so far. So remember, when you jump into T7, not to just go directly into a battle cruiser and think you're going to outdo your cruiser. Because until you reach a level where you've gotten enough research into your battle cruiser, your cruiser is most probably going to be double or triple the strength and durability as the battle cruiser. And it's better for you to complete all of your cruiser upgrades and then jump into your battle cruiser later and complete it as well. Alright, so this is going to be around where I'm going to cut it for this, but I'm just going to add one more piece of information. When it comes to saving up for your vessels, remember that even though I'm telling you the battle cruisers become available, in your cruisers, better ships do become available at T7. And I'm just going to go down. Let's see if they are. The Osprey is an example. Let's see what it has. Okay, this is a support vessel. I'm actually looking to purchase a shield support vessel to help with the battle cruisers in the start. And if you look at all of its optimal range and settings, it's made to help vessels. And I think most of these vessels that I'm going to be looking at are support. Yeah, the T7s over here are support vessels. I know the Executor is a support vessel for armor repair. Let's see, anything else here? No. The covert op vessels are strong combat vessels, if I'm correct. They're slightly faster and they have a little bit more of an edge on most vessels. Yeah, you can see that there's a lot of little roll bonuses. Now, I'm not going to go through every single T7 vessel because they're not really all that important at the moment. But you always have an option to change your game format moving into your cruisers over jumping into battle cruisers. Remember, experting out your battle cruiser might help you 10 times more than making an expert of yourself in uh, your cruiser. Would be better to max out in research than going into your battle cruiser for a start. Because once your cruiser is maxed out, you have that strong backup vessel. And when you get into your battle cruisers, you're going to purchase two. And I'm going to say this here on a strict basis of knowing the type of gameplay we play in PvE. The best vessels in PvE for easy cheesing of missions and encounters are drone vessels, and as such, you're going to be using things like the Prophecy and the Myrmidon in your PvE. And when it comes to PvP, which is something you have to think about as a player, even if you're going full PvE, the other vessels hold the advantage because any smart fleet will just destroy all of your expensive drones and hit your ship afterwards. Because with 3 weapons, they can heal double the speed of your damage and they can tear through you and destroy you. And with the slow range and the low rate of turn, all they've got to do is engage warp disruptors at the right moment and stop you. So that's going to be about it on this video. Thank you for watching.